seconds. Velasquez might get the stop here. It is all over. King Velasquez, the winner. First round TKO. Trying to finish his shot. She's got the choke. It is all over. Amanda Nunes is the first female Brazilian UFC champion.
It's the show for all your latest UFC news and rumors. It's Brian Coyle. It's Sean Stanley. It's the TFM Live podcast. And it's now.
All right, it's Wednesday night. It means only one thing. It's the TFM Live podcast brought to you by thefullmountmma.com. I'm Sean Stanley, and as always, I'm joined by Brian Coyle. Brian, how you doing, sir?
I am doing fantastic. It's Wednesday. There's currently UFC fights going on right now because, we didn't get enough apparently this past weekend, so why the hell not? Tony Ferguson is fighting in the co-main event, and then you have John Hands of Stone Lineker, who's one of the most fun fighters to watch in that main event. And by the time we're done recording, we might have the answers to those fights so we can talk about them. But yeah, Sean, there was a little thing called UFC 200.
Oh, did that happen? Did that already happen?
Yeah, it almost apparently didn't happen because the week went upside down, middle of the week.
Yeah.
But UFC 200 was built as the perfect fight card. It was built as the biggest, baddest fight card in the world. It was not that because of things we'll get into, obviously, with Jon Jones popping for performance-enhancing drugs. But I felt like it was a very fitting card for mixed martial arts and the sport. It was still big. It was still fun. It was still awesome. It didn't have everything that we dreamed it would have, but it was still, I thought, particularly fitting for the UFC. What'd you think?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I thought some of the noise, you didn't have the big name at the top necessarily, but I think it was a very fitting card put together for 200. You had your return of Brock Lesnar. You had your, the undercards. I don't think they disappointed. There was a couple outcomes I was like, wow, really? Like that? Yep. But nothing that surprised me. Not that surprising, but nothing that said, you know what, this card is not anything good. I think that undercard helped propel the what was lacking in the main card.
When you have 3 finishes in the early prelims, it's a good way to start off the night.
No, it was.
Jim Miller beating Takano Igomi, yep. Gegard Mousasi beating Thiago Santos. Also, when did Gegard Mousasi get all this finishing power? That's what I want to know.
I don't. When did all what? It was like even with Lozon, I was like, what? First round?
Yeah.
I wanted blood.
Well, if you wanted blood, we got some, but we had to wait for a while.
Yeah, no, we did, but it was just. But again, those fights, it was the excitement that you didn't expect it. I didn't expect Lozon to take care of Sanchez like that. I thought it was going to go. Honestly, I was like, oh, here we go, 3 rounds. It's going to be great, but it's going to be 3 rounds, and it didn't even go a round.
This whole weekend was loaded with great things. I'm currently opening up a big folder with all our picks in it, which we can go through.
Yeah.
But let's just say I didn't have a great week.
Yeah, the mid card, the main card hurt me. 2 fights hurt me.
I picked Jon Jones to win a fight that never happened.
Yeah, so you already lost. You went into the week 0-1.
I know.
And I was 1-0 already. This is good stuff.
I picked Claudia Gadelha against Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
Yeah, how'd that work out for you, buddy?
Good. Javier Dos Anjos didn't work out so good.
And you know what? I ended up going back. I listened to it. I wanted to pick.
You did.
I wanted to pick
Eddie Alvarez,
and I couldn't do it. And I was like, I bit my tongue when I was like, oh my goodness.
My flip flopping on Brock Lesnar came back to prove me correct.
Yeah, luckily.
Juliana Pena made a statement. Frankie Edgar was just so frustrated by Jose Aldo.
Wow, Jose Aldo looked like Jose Aldo.
It's crazy. We're going to get into Amanda Nunes' shocking win. We're going to talk about Brock Lesnar. It's weird, though. The first thing me and you were talking about the night of the fight was Aldo.
Yeah.
Because this is the guy who was there for the past 10 years. This is This was the dude who ran the featherweight division.
Yeah.
And man, he just swatted Frankie Edgar, who's really freaking good.
Yeah.
He just swatted him away like a fly, treated him like a child in the ring. He never touched him.
Yeah, I think what's funny though is that you can see in that right there the mental aspect of MMA.
Yeah.
I mean, Jose Aldo, this guy, or Jose Aldo, however you want to say, if you want to pronounce the J or whatever, against Conor McGregor, 13 seconds.
Yep.
Because Conor McGregor was so far in his head, he wanted to just walk out there and punch him, and McGregor just let it was like leading the lamb to the slaughter. And he kept his cool this fight and just frustrated Edgar.
It was beautiful.
It was a great show for him, but it was frustrating for me. I'm like, come on, man.
It was absolute tenacity from Aldo, and then
MMA at its best, right there. MMA at its
image
finest, man.
of Conor McGregor standing up that entire fight.
Yeah.
And as cool as that is he going to come down to 145? These are whole questions that we'll have to answer.
Yeah.
But we talked about, but there was a lot of surprises. Amanda Nunes main evented UFC 200 with Miesha Tate. Submitted her in the first round. Amanda Nunes. This was not how it was drawn up in Dana White's head and the Fertitta's head. Well, I mean, and apparently the new owner's head. We'll talk about the UFC sale because that happened too. Amanda Nunes came out like a woman possessed, completely obliterated Miesha Tate, who apparently had a worse weight cut than everyone would imagine, because she didn't get on the scale until 10 o'clock, literally the last minute down that Friday, and she annihilated Tate in home versus Rousey-like fashion. And Amanda Nunes is the first female Brazilian champion. She's the first LGBT champion. The UFC has a new star out of nowhere. And it was literally, I mean, we didn't think she could do this on a major stage. We knew she was good.
Wait. I believe I made that choice.
You did pick Nunes, but it was more on the fact that Tate and the champion's disadvantage, if you will.
Yeah, I thought she was overlooking. I mean, I honestly did. I mean, you can sit there and say, "Oh, I knew what to expect about her coming out quickly," but what did you do to prepare for that? Obviously, not what you thought you had done.
No,
because if that's the way you prepared, I don't know what to tell you.
Her striking was incredible. It was on point. She went in for the kill when she saw blood.
Oh, did she ever? Wow.
It was absolute.
Isn't it funny? Alvarez and her both, when they smelled the blood of the champion going down, they knew. They just knew it was their time.
They went for it, and It was a terrific performance by both of them. I mean, we have to talk about Eddie Alvarez beating Rafael dos Anjos because, sure, let's go the wrestler, the quote unquote boring fighter, Eddie Alvarez, becoming an absolute machine and beating up Rafael dos Anjos is one of the greatest strikers in the UFC, period.
Yeah.
Like, these are things we didn't expect. I mean, we did kind of see the Cormier versus, the way he won his fight against Anderson Silva,
But also, I did call the finish of the Cormier-Jones fight, too, didn't I?
Yeah, you kind of.
Because I said Jones is going to do something stupid and lose the fight.
Yes, and he did.
I called it.
He did do something stupid and lose the fight. I don't even know where to begin.
Sorry, I just had to go there real quick.
No, it's perfectly fine because Jon Jones, rightly so, will be criticized for the rest of his career for doing something like this.
I do have one question because I saw a tweet from his camp or a story about his camp saying they missed out on an 8-figure payday.
Oh, that's probably true.
So what is that from? Like sponsors as far as for what?
Well, you have the initial, however much money he was going to get from the UFC, the initial payment that's disclosed by the Nevada Athletic Commission. A la Brock Lesnar got $2.5 million for this. And then you look at sponsorships, you look at future endorsement deals, you look at...
But how do they sponsor them, I guess, is my question right now with UFC. How are they, what are they... Well, because they can mention them or they can wear their hat? I mean...
Well, they can't remember. Those Reebok exclusivity sponsorships are for the week of the fight.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to that kind of stuff, it's obviously Reebok. But when you have sponsorships with supplement products, which could have done Jones in, honestly, because we still don't know exactly what's going on. There's rumors have been passed around that it was estrogen blockers, which are usually involved with doping and testosterone boosters.
Yeah, in a way, but there's also testosterone boosters that are sold over the counter that can do that as well.
Completely.
Depending on what he was taking, because again, if you take 4, if you read like the USDA or whatever the thing is, where they say this is what it is for the amount, but if you take more than that, I mean, you're gonna there's things that you can go around that stuff.
And now, I mean, all of the Jones, I mean, he was tested 7 times this year. The 8th time he pops for it. I mean, Chael Sonnen is on Joe Rogan's podcast talking about times where Jones hid under the octagon when this was like you had to be there for USADA and you had to notify their whereabouts and everything. But Jones was under the octagon for 6 to 8 hours waiting it out because USADA came in and then sat down and was like, we'll wait till he gets back. And then it was the end of the business day and then he left. So it's a whole weird situation surrounding Jones. We don't know when we're going to see him. I mean, he looked in shock during that press conference that happened. What was it, Thursday morning? And the whole system was thrown in the flux and Brock Lesnar was the main event and then Brock Lesnar wasn't the main event. And then Cormier had no fight, and all of a sudden he's fighting Gegard Mousasi, but no, he's fighting Dan Henderson, but no, he's fighting Anderson Silva. It was absolute insanity last week.
No, yeah, and then
I couldn't believe it.
Oh, I mean, you just felt bad though for Cormier, man. I mean, when you saw that video that came out with him, and of course it's strategically leaked by the UFC, but
they were there for embedded, and it just worked.
No, yeah, I mean, it just was just. I mean, you get this guy that's 8 weeks. And I was thinking that, you know what, this would be the time, but Cormier went in and with a masterful plan and just held Silva down. But that would have been the time for Silva just to kind of wouldn't even be shock the world, but just kind of stamp down that, hey, this is me. I'm still here.
I mean, hell, that body kick that he threw at the end of the 3rd round had people jacked up about it. And I guess, let's start at the bottom of the main card, I guess, at this point.
Do we have to? Can we just skip the first match?
Velasquez and Brown, the one that I was right over you. Also,
I was hoping that, Brown would do something that he doesn't do, but he did exactly what he normally does and just ate a punch and just.
Man, Travis Brown, not great in the limelight. It's
Mr. Rousey. Still Mr. Rousey.
Yeah, that's what it is. And Cain Velasquez, man, he looked good.
Yeah, he did.
He's a former UFC heavyweight champion.
Yeah,
Cain's really good. It's just he's been hurt throughout his entire career. I mean, he's been talked about as one of the most high potential heavyweights of all time. And he's still got time to live up to that hype. It's just he's got to stay healthy.
Yeah.
And a healthy Cain Velasquez can batter Travis Brown. I mean, he could do a lot of different things.
I think an unhealthy Cain Velasquez could batter Travis Brown.
You might not be wrong. So Velasquez
that speaks about that camp, right? That camp just doesn't get anybody prepared, man.
I mean, yeah. Pretty much.
Who out of that camp does? I mean,
I couldn't name a name. I mean, when you look at Brown, you look at Rousey, Gambarian. This is not a thriving camp, and maybe there's a change coming because, man, somebody needs to figure something out over there. And meanwhile, Cain Velasquez is at AKA, and it's been kind of good recently. Cormier and Velasquez, I mean, they make each other better.
Yeah, I mean, they're training with each other. I mean, it's going to you got to get better when you're training with that kind of elite talent.
And Cain, with him, to me, he's the number 1 contender for the heavyweight title. Which is crazy.
Who else would there be? I mean, besides the former champion, because they automatic
rematch. I mean, he was supposed to get the automatic rematch, right?
Yeah. That's the way the UFC works, right?
Recently, that's the way it's been. But Velasquez is supposed to fight Verdum. That gets canceled in February, and then Verdum goes out, loses to Miocic. Miocic fights Overeem in September. You have Verdum versus Rothwell on that card. Mm-hmm. You have Brock Lesnar beating up Mark Hunt. And, I mean, Dan Henderson, we joked about it how many months ago? Dan Henderson's getting a middleweight title.
Yeah, you
fight.
saw that setting up though. Once Bisping got the belt, I mean, I think that was set. That was set in action. Just like, all right, here's your chance.
And if he wins, he'll retire with the belt. Well, they don't have the guts to do a tournament on a title night, do they?
You know what? You never know with these new owners. You never know. That would be a precedent to set if you're going to do it. That would be it.
Yeah, that would be fun. So Velasquez, could we be looking at Cain Velasquez, Brock Lesnar in November?
No, you know what? I mean, I don't know if we're going to get into the 3 and out or that we did on the fullmountmma.com, but I don't think Lesnar's ready for that yet.
All right, well, we'll get into Brock in just a little bit. We talked about Aldo and Edgar. I mean, Aldo, the interim featherweight champion.
A clinic, my friend.
An absolute clinic for Jose Aldo. It like,
you know what? I picked against him, but it was so good to see that Jose Aldo back. It was good to see that Jose Aldo because it could have went the other way, which I thought it probably would have, just because he didn't seem like that. He could be that mentally tough, and to see that, it was very, very good.
Could you talk, like, because I wrote this in my preview on the fullmountmma.com. I tweeted about it. Aldo's takedown defense. Can you talk about that for a second? From your, I mean, you have the wrestling experience. It's immaculate.
Yeah, no, he like sprawls out, and he is an athletic guy. I saw him at one point in the fight. I think he was sprawling, and he actually was able to land like a combination. At the same time, he was he had Edgar so frustrated. I really think I was waiting to see the who's the guy?
What?
Uriah Faber tantrum at the end of the fight. That's how frustrated I was. Frustrated for Edgar.
Frankie had no chance.
He was not the answer.
He had no answers. And watching Frankie, he was so in tune for this fight.
And
his
also
wrestling was peak. But
yeah.
when we wrote about this and we talked about this, you can't beat Aldo this way. He's statistically the best takedown defense guy, period, in the history of the UFC.
And he was focused in this fight. He was focused. He didn't come in, like I don't know, overhyped or whatever, but he was focused and he was ready to make, and he was hitting from all angles. It wasn't like he was just doing it. He was so many angles he hit Edgar from, so many different aspects of MMA he hit Edgar. There was just nothing he could do.
No, there was nothing he can do. And Aldo, to me, his avoidance of strikes stood out to me even more.
Yeah.
Because this was a guy who was not trading. He was fighting intelligent. He was fighting smart. He was sticking. He was moving. He didn't look overly quick.
No,
but he looked
countered.
fast.
He countered, but Edgar looked so frustrated that when he threw a punch, Aldo looked like 3 steps ahead of him. Like he knew, I knew you were going to throw that 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, it was an absolute clinic for Aldo, and I hope that we get the rematch. I really do, because I need to see that fight actually take place. Conor nailed him in 13 seconds. It wasn't a fight. It was a mistake, and McGregor nailed him, and it was great. And it's a fantastic win and a fantastic moment for Conor McGregor. I need to see Aldo fight him, just for my own sake, because I want to see that dream matchup, because it's just so, their styles mesh, excuse me, so great. I mean, McGregor's not going to try to take him down. He's going to defeat Aldo the way he knows he can, by knocking him out. And we saw this 10-year undefeated streak from Jose Aldo he was untouchable. And then the shield was down, and he was a broken man. He pops back up. He beats Edgar. And now we see this guy against Conor McGregor at a weight that Conor should be fighting at, because newsflash, Nate Diaz at 170, it's not a very advantageous situation for him. And there's going to be a lot of people picking Nate to win that rematch. And, I mean, for me, as much as I love watching Conor McGregor fight, I think I'm siding on that fence right now. This is the money fight again. And if Frankie beat Aldo, then it was Frankie-Conor. But now it's the rematch, and I don't see any way other about it, unless, I mean, if Conor keeps avoiding 145, which is a very real possibility because he wants these bigger fights and he wants to fight these physically bigger guys, Aldo will defend against Max Holloway, who can't be denied at this point. What do you think about the possibility of Aldo McGregor too?
Oh, I mean, I would love to see it. But as you say, and when you said he beat Edgar, I just think he totally outclassed Edgar on that night. I'm not saying but I mean, we've talked about it many times and you said it yourself. I don't think that McGregor's going to come back down to 145. I don't see that happening. And maybe this is Holloway's chance to get a title fight in Hawaii.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. You're seeing fighters like Louis Smolka lay the wood in Sioux City right now. And like, there's a big stream of Hawaiian fighters that are really like kind of making the names for themselves. I mean, BJ Penn just popped again by USADA, but like it's starting to become a hotbed. And I don't know if it's a pay-per-view fight, but is it a Fox card? Maybe.
Definitely that or a Fight Pass.
That's for sure.
Well, I guess there's not much else after FS1 except for Fight Pass, right?
Speaking of Fight Pass, let's talk about Eddie Alvarez and Javier Dos Anjos real quick, because that's how the fight went. It was real quick, and Eddie Alvarez became the new was it the linear champion because he was a Strikeforce champ, he was a Bellator champ, and now he's the UFC champ.
Just call him champ.
Yeah, because Alvarez looked great. And now it sets up a whole bunch of fun matchups at 155. Dos Anjos needs to go back and beat somebody again. Because, man, I did not see that one coming.
Do you think you're going to get the rematch?
No, I don't think so.
No, really? Why?
Because, number one, Dos Anjos, they put them on Fight Pass for a reason. And this wasn't the money fight. Like,
oh, no, yeah. I mean, they've never been able to market Dos Anjos. I mean, I think the best thing for them was him losing the belt.
I think so, too. Honestly, that's why I don't see them going with the immediate rematch. If you take, Tony Ferguson missed out on the Khabib Nurmagomedov fight. He missed out on the Michael Chiesa fight because of injuries, because first Ferguson was injured, and then he had to pull out of the Fox card, and then Michael Chiesa got hurt for tonight's card, and now he's fighting a UFC rookie. So it's a weird position where the lightweight division is right now. Alvarez, a deserving champion after lighting Dos Anjos up. And then you're looking at what? Nurmagomedov, you're looking at Ferguson, you're looking at maybe Cowboy Cerrone, but then again, Cowboy's fighting every month and a half at this point.
Don't put Cowboy in title fights. He's not the Cowboy.
The next guy is Edson Barbosa, who said, Alvarez and Barbosa trained together. Barbosa said he doesn't want to challenge for the belt while Alvarez is champ, which is weird. It's very wrestling tag team which I'm very.
But I think if the payday is right, I think they're going to put those to the side.
I would hope so. And then you got Anthony Pettis who's dropping down. So we don't lightweight's a big mystery, and Alvarez versus Khabib may be the fight. If Nate goes out and beats Conor again, Alvarez, Nate Diaz may be the fight.
Yeah, but I think you'd have to have another fight before Diaz at that point. Because he'd be on the shelf for a little while.
So that's a mystery right now, but congrats to Eddie Alvarez. He's earned it, man. What he did to Dos Anjos was literally, you can't get more decisive than that.
No, he caught him, and then he just went for the kill. That was just, he saw him drop a little bit, and it was just on.
And then you've got the championship fight that happened on Friday night, which, man, Claudia Gadelha had it early on, but Joan Jacek, she is relentless.
Yeah.
It is one of the most fun fighters to watch. I think that it was over 160 strikes throughout the fight. It was some incredible number. She outlasted Gadelha. She brutalized her later on in that fight. And Joanna can't be beat. It's just not happening.
I won't say she can't be beat, but it's going to take a special kind of athlete to fight her to beat her.
Yeah, I mean, the next person you look at is Rose Namajunas in that division, which she's got. She's featured on UFC 201 in the co-main event. So, Joanna, like, watching her work, and for Gadelha now, you lose to somebody twice. You usually don't get the third fight. Unless you're
Misha Tate.
Yeah.
She might have lost that third fight now.
I think she did too. So strawweight's at an interesting point as well.
It's going to be interesting time right now I think in all these divisions.
Yes, for sure. So, why don't we take a break? When we come back, we'll finish up the rest of UFC 200, and then we'll get into the UFC sale, because that, to me, is one of those crazy, we knew about it. It was reported upon. It was denied over and over again. But now it's happened, and it doesn't, we have to let it sink in a little bit. We'll discuss that. We'll discuss the rest of UFC 200, as we mentioned. We'll discuss our 3 and out regarding Brock Lesnar. Plenty of stuff to talk about. Just, if you've never heard us before, you're listening on sportsovertime.com, or you're listening to the podcast on iTunes. Subscribe, TFM Live, type it into the iTunes search bar. You can find it there. At The Full Mount on Twitter, thefullmountmma.com. All that good stuff you'll see in the description below. So we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll dive right into the main events of UFC 200 right here on TFM Live, the official podcast of thefullmountmma.com.
For all your latest news and rumors of the UFC, go to thefullmountmma.com. Now back to the TFM Live podcast. Here's Brian Coyle and Sean Stanley.
All right, back here with you, Sean Stanley, Brian Coyle, and we were talking UFC 200. And Brian, where'd you want to go off to next? I believe it was Daniel Cormier we were getting on to now.
Yes, Daniel Cormier defeats Anderson Silva, 3rd round unanimous decision. Everyone boos him to pieces. They cheer Anderson Silva. Silva gets put on his coach's shoulders as he runs around the octagon. Daniel Cormier cannot catch a break, my friend. Man, he's the most hated guy in mixed martial arts by the fans for no apparent reason. Just he's the baby face that nobody likes, to put it in the wrestling terms.
Yeah, I don't know why. I think because he doesn't have an exciting style of fighting, but he has a winning style of fighting.
He's the hall monitor, as I think Jon Jones once put it bluntly.
Right.
So Cormier loses out in the Jones fight, which we can do a whole podcast on that. But it's a weird spot for him. He goes out, he fights Anderson Silva, 7 weeks removed from gallbladder surgery. Silva, who's clearly not in fight shape, who's eating on the scale, having a great time. And I love Silva soaking everything in. It was oddly perfect that he was the guy that filled in.
It just allowed him to be him. Honestly, it was, he had no pressure.
No, none at all.
He wasn't expected to really win the fight. It would have been nice if he did, but I really don't think he was expected to come in and win a fight. How long was it again from gallbladder surgery?
7 weeks.
So 7 weeks. And so how much training did he actually get in?
Nothing, probably.
Yeah.
Knowing Silva, nothing.
The curls that he was doing as he was eating on the scale, maybe. That was it.
Yeah, and then you have, when he was standing up, Silva was dangerous.
Yeah. No.
He was very dangerous.
As you said earlier, he caught him with that kick. He caught him with a couple kicks, and you could see the redness and the welts forming on Cormier.
Cormier got nervous when he started striking with him. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'll do this a little bit in the first." Oh no, we're not doing this.
Yeah, once he caught that first one, now that's when the boo started, because I think I think a lot of people went to UFC 200 that were your casual MMA fans. To me, look, you got to do what you got to do, and we'll discuss that even more detail when we talk about some other fights later on. But
yeah,
that's what Cormier does. It's not. Look, he'll try to knock you out or whatever. He'll try to go strikes with you, but if he knows, look, I'm probably losing this if I go to strikes, he does what he goes back to, what he's best at, and that's wrestling.
And now he'll end up fighting Anthony Johnson or Glover Teixeira, probably the winner of that fight at UFC 202 on the McGregor card. And we'll start all over again in light heavyweight, but the problem is with Cormier, he's never going to be able to get the Jon Jones thing off his back. He's never going to be the guy because he could never beat the guy because the other guy kept screwing up. And as much as we want, like, the record books will show, Cormier won the belt and then defended it as long as he will do. He never beat Jon Jones. And if Jon Jones suspended 2 years and they have this fight 2 years later on, sure. I mean, maybe we can talk about it then. But this is...
But it still doesn't have the same meaning in 2 years. I don't think. I think by then it's going to be like, okay, here's Jon Jones, here's, Daniel Cormier. I mean, look, honestly, with Daniel Cormier, I think one knockout, if he's not the champion, I think he becomes Dos Anjos.
See, it's weird because DC is like, he just doesn't have that same magnetic, like, personality that these draws have. I mean...
I think it's because he looks so babyface. He's the guy you want to hate because it's just like every time he talks, he sounds so like almost like forced to be kind. I guess is that saying right? Like everything he says, like with the Anderson Silva thing, I just felt like some of that was just like so. It felt fake. Some of it.
It was I don't get the fake impression off of DC.
This is the fact that he's like, I'm just so impressed with Anderson Silva. I'm just so excited to be fighting Anderson Silva, a great. Just come on, man.
I mean, and
you're
if
fighting him, not making love to him. You're not courting him.
I mean, Cormier, he's got all the ability in the world. He's possibly the number 2 pound for pound fighter in the UFC behind Jones before this. I mean, and by process of elimination, he could be. The guy's lost once, and it was to Jon Jones. He was 13-0 as a heavyweight. Yeah. So it's just this weird sort of thing surrounding DC, and I don't know when it will go away. If he goes and grounds Anthony Johnson again, if he beats Teixeira again, I mean, who knows? If he fight, like, is Cormier ever going to fight Brock at heavyweight? Because, like, we don't know what the hell Brock Lesnar's future is. Like, is he going to fight somebody else? Is he going to move up? His career is at a turning point, despite the fact that he's in his later 30s and he's a champion. His career still hasn't reached that apex that it's been trying to get to. And I don't know what's going to push him over the edge, and it will be very intriguing because he'll probably get the winner of Johnson Teixeira, and if he wins that fight, what happens next for Cormier? Where does he go? What's the move with one of the most dominant fighters in the UFC today, yet he just seems to have trouble connecting with a majority of the fans because of the way he fights. And meanwhile, there's somebody who fought exactly the way Cormier fought in a co-main event, and everyone loved it.
Oh, what? Yeah, they did. But
Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, but except the problem is the other guy has sledgehammers for fists.
Yes, that's an apt description for the genetic freak that is Brock Lesnar, who all of a sudden apparently said, screw it, I'm not coming out to my wrestling music, which is very, very Brock Lesnar. In fact, everything about this fight and the ensuing press conference was all Brock Lesnar. Sean, I think we've got some sound from Brock's press conference talking about his future in the UFC because we don't know if he's going to fight or not. We'll get into that. But can you play that from the press conference?
There you go.
Well, let's get one thing clear. Brock Lesnar does what Brock Lesnar wants to do. I believe that my future is already laid out for the next month. I'm doing SummerSlam against Randy Orton. And once the dust settles there, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I had one hell of a time tonight, and I enjoyed myself. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Brock, he'll do whatever the hell he wants. Thank you very much. And it's weird. And it's awesome, and it's fun. Brock looked good against Mark Hunt. And, of course, it was a hand-picked opponent if he could be able to ground Mark Hunt. Yep. But you saw in the first round, Brock is kind of standing up and is going, I don't want to get punched in the face right now. Mm-hmm. I have to kind of figure this out. And it was intriguing to watch, and then he was able to hit the single legs, the double legs, assert his dominance. Because when you have a guy like that who's probably weighing 285 on fight night, Hunt said it himself. He's like, I don't know what to do with it. Like, you don't know. Like, he's the beast. And Lesnar's performance he looked like a guy. Not only he looked excited to be there, he looked rejuvenated. I mean, he cut the most babyface promo of all time after the fight. Like, Brock's whole night was great. It was couldn't have gone better with the exception of maybe a stoppage.
I think he got the win, and I think he's lucky that his opponent was Mark Hunt because he didn't have to worry about a lot. But you saw in the second round. I mean, he has a lot to do. I mean, he's not in cage. He doesn't have the cage endurance right now. You could see it in the second round. It was.
Oh yeah, he was huffing and puffing.
Oh, I think if Hunt could have got in then, but again, Hunt, what he did at the end of that first round was he made Hunt start worrying about if I get too close, he's going to take me down. So Hunt stayed out a little bit too far and he couldn't land. So he did land a couple, but a lot of them were grazing off his shoulder and things like that. So I think he did what he needed to do to win, but also watching that, yes, he instilled the dominance in that round 3 at the end there. That was Brock Lesnar-esque. But
yeah,
I think with somebody, you know, like you were saying, Cain Velasquez, thing like that, I don't think you see the same outcome.
I think what you have to take into account is Brock trained for this fight for a minimum, probably a maximum of a month.
Oh, no, I understand that.
So there's a whole bunch of things like that kind of go into this, and we're not saying Brock Lesnar could be UFC heavyweight champion again. Yeah. Well, then, I mean, it seems like the belt's being passed around like a hot potato, but
actually, I think now with Miocic being the champion would be a better opportunity for him to become the champion than maybe if Verdum or Velasquez or somebody gets it.
Yeah, we kind of dove into this. You can read the 3 and Out on thefullmountainmma.com right now. Should Brock keep fighting? And your opinion was what, Sean?
I mean, I think definitely. I mean, he looked good, but I think you got to pick another hand-picked heavyweight.
In a perfect world, I mean, I'm totally on board with this. It's good for everybody involved. Brock looked like he had a great time.
You know who I'd be interested to see him take on? The Black Beast.
Derek Lewis?
Yep.
See, I think you're going down.
Yeah, but I think, but see, I don't think, look, Lesnar's an attraction. It doesn't matter. If you go up, who's he going to go up right now? And honestly, looking at who's above there, who's a striker?
I mean, you could do the Lesnar-Barnett fight.
Yeah, I forgot.
He's not going
Barnett.
up.
I forgot about Barnett. I mean, you could, but
you could do Lesnar-Arlovsky.
But I think you got with the Black Beast fight is I don't think you have. You look if he does beat Lesnar, you continue him on a momentum train. If Lesnar takes him out, it's just Lesnar doing what he does.
I mean, Brock Lesnar turned 39 years old.
Yep.
A couple days ago, was it yesterday?
Yep.
If he wants to keep doing this, he'll keep doing this.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. His win benefited everyone involved because he can have a bigger fight if he wants to. WWE can use it all they want. The SummerSlam promos on a UFC pay-per-view was one of the weirdest and coolest things I've ever seen. It's just the UFC and WWE relationship, I think, is a great thing for everybody. And the Brock is this weird sort of key to the entire thing, and Brock Lesnar has become this guy where you threw him on the pay-per-view, and the amount of people that were asking me, "Hey, Brock Lesnar's like fighting like again?" Like it's you have, we don't know what the numbers are, but they're probably going to be massive, and you have Junior Dos Santos calling out Brock. I mean, if he really wanted to make a run, that's the next guy you kind of have to fight, or or maybe Overeem if he loses to Miocic or something like that. Is he ready for that level of competition?
I don't think he's ready for that.
I don't think he's ready for it. But the next obvious fight date is Madison Square Garden in November.
Yeah.
So I doubt we would see if it's not then it's New Year's Eve maybe if he wanted to do something like that. So there's a whole bunch of mechanisms behind what Lesnar's next move is. And we don't know what it will be, but it's going to be great. I enjoy, the amount of like, I was with a couple buddies and we're sitting around, and the amount of like smiles that I saw on people's faces is like, oh, Brock Lesnar's back. This is what he's kind of being able to do. And if these new owners want Brock Lesnar to fight and they offer him $5 million, $10 million for a fight, I don't think he's going to say no.
Yeah, but I don't think you can go up to $10 million.
I mean, I think you can't. I mean, the UFC was bought for $4 billion.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the fight cards, I mean, you'd have to have almost a UFC 200 style card to be able to. I mean, you're giving one fighter $10 million. I mean,
if
you
you
did
do
give
an
one
MSG.
fighter $2.5 million, so I guess.
By the way, Tony Ferguson on the UFC card in Sioux City apparently went through hell against Landon Venata, who almost knocked him out in the first round. But Ferguson got the submission win. I recommend everybody try to catch this fight, either the replay of it on FS1 or catching highlights of it, because Ferguson got the submission in round 2. But man, we've got a new prospect in the lightweight division. We spent like 15 minutes talking about, or 10 minutes talking about potential contenders for Eddie Alvarez, and Ferguson almost gets ticked off by a brand new UFC fighter. So this whole, we never know what's going to happen in this sport.
You're one punch away from a loss. I mean, that's what ultimately what it is.
And bringing it back to Brock, we don't know. Like, is he going to be at, like, if he does, how many fights does he have in him? Like, so if you're going to do it, you do it. You're going to do the Junior Dos Santos fight, pull the trigger on it. If you want to do a Barnett fight or a Derek Lewis fight, pull the trigger on it, because you don't know what's going to happen. Is Brock going to get sick again? There's a whole bunch of mechanisms.
I think if you pull the Barnett or Lewis fight, you could probably do 2 rather quickly, because I think those fights will end pretty quick.
Well, I mean, that's the beauty of the sport. You never know.
Yeah.
And with the main event, quickly, so we can talk about the sale real quick. Nunes throws a whole wrench. I wrote a whole article, what's next for the UFC winners, on the website. You can check it out at The Full Mount on Twitter. You see it right there. And is Rousey come back and fight Nunes, who's just as bad of a matchup as Holm was? Is Misha Tate, where does she go from here? Juliana Pena looked great against Kat Zingano.
Mm-hmm. Called that one, too.
Yeah, I know. You got that one. I know. I'll add them all up, and next time we'll see where the standings are right now. But Nunes now holds the belt, and where does it? Holly Holm's going to fight against Valentina Shevchenko at the end of the month. If Shevchenko beat Holm, what goes on there? Like, women's bantamweight's insane.
No, it's a good time to be a UFC fan, because you're going to see a lot of different matchups.
I mean,
and exciting matchups.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait for all of it. And you know who else can't wait? The people that bought the UFC for $4 billion.
Yeah.
$4 billion. And it's been reported on. Jeremy Botter was on top of this from Flow Combat. Jonathan Snowden from Bleacher Report. Ariel Hawani. Darren Ravel and Brett Okamoto at ESPN did a good job as well. $4 billion. WME. Hold on. Let me make sure I get the full partners.
Yeah.
Right. It's WME-IMG, which is a big media conglomerate, with a whole bunch of faces. It's a big company, just to put it in layman's terms. One of the faces might be Ari Emanuel, who's most famously portrayed as Ari Gold on Entourage. So think of someone like that running the UFC. Dana White stays on as president, makes $360 million in the process of selling his shares, gets back new shares.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he still gets 9% plus 9% of net profits. Plus he still has a 9% stake in the company as well.
Congrats, Dana White, because man, that dude got the best deal.
What is going on?
And it's a 5-year deal too. Man, that's what a sale for Dana White.
Yeah.
And And of course, the same guy who denied over and over and over again. So basically, we can take it at face value. If Dana White denies something, it's going to happen.
I was going to say, whatever Dana White says, throw it out.
Yep.
It's the opposite.
Mm-hmm. The Fertittas move out of the way. They go for the full sale. And I think they're moving on to more casino-based businesses. They'll stay on.
I think it's a great opportunity for them to move on. And because I think right now, again, we've talked about in other podcasts with UFC. It's not I wouldn't say a make or break thing, but there's going to be some, I think, ups and downs coming up soon with everything going on in the UFC.
Yeah, there's so much. Like, how is this all going to work? How much will it change? We'll see. We'll see it immediately because you get McGregor in August.
Yeah.
So
we didn't even talk about Demetrius Johnson pulling out of this fight.
Yeah, Demetrius Johnson's out of 201. Wilson Heiss is looking for a new opponent. The UFC 201
wouldn't be a main event without somebody falling out.
I mean, the promo, the commercial for that during 200 was expertly done. I mean, a lot of people give the UFC creative promo staff a lot of stuff for what they've done. I mean, the posters for UFC 200 and the posters that McGregor complained about over and over. But the eerily horror music, Robbie Lawler, Tyron Woodley thing gets a double thumbs up from me because ruthless Robbie Lawler's going to take somebody's soul, or Tyron Woodley is going to finally be the guy to put away Lawler somehow.
Yeah. And they're teammates, right?
I don't think
Are they
so.
trained together or something? I heard they train together, or they've trained together with certain things. I think they're both ATT, but I think Woodley is up north or something, and
they are both ATT.
Yeah.
So they are teammates technically. He also trains with Roofer Sport too.
Yeah, that's who he's with right now. He decided to step away from Top Team right now because just to work with them.
The couple other things. Wilson Heiss has got a new opponent, Sean Santella, at UFC 201 with Demetrius Johnson out. That opens up the doors. If they're not going to have him fight Wilson Heiss, is DJ going to fight Dominic Cruz? Is he going to fight? Dominic Cruz was talking today to Brett Okamoto about fighting Jose Aldo at 145 in a super fight. And if that could happen if McGregor never comes down, which is a very intriguing possibility. I never even thought about it.
Yeah, no, I never even thought about that one. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like right now, it's a great time to be an MMA fan because you're going to have, look, these guys, the buyers that just bought UFC are going to need to make something just to say, hey, look, this is where we're going. What will that be? We all get to wait and see.
Absolutely. And then we have the news today that Jimmy Rivera, a very exciting bantamweight prospect, gets Uriah Faber at UFC 203. So he gets to join the same card. It's a big opportunity for a guy who's won 18 MMA fights in a row against Uriah Faber. He's 3-0 in the UFC. Takes on Faber, who we thought could have been retired after the Cruz fight.
Just go away.
He could if Rivera takes care of business. CM Punk's on that card. We think
Phil Brooks.
He has to earn CM Punk.
No, I don't think they have CM Punk on the thing. I think they have it as Brooks.
We'll see if he comes out to Cult of Personality or Kill Switch Engage or anything of that nature.
I hope he takes the knee and does clobbering time.
Oh boy, here we go. So we've run out of time here, folks, but we want to thank you guys for listening. Well, yeah, sure, we'll end on that. Why the hell not? Thank you guys for listening. You can check out everything we do, thefullmountmma.com. We got plenty of articles. We're talking winners of UFC 200. We're talking fight news. We're talking reactions to cards, Brock Lesnar stuff, McGregor stuff. Ronda Rousey's got a new commercial. Is she coming back? We'll discuss all of that. You can find us on Twitter at The Full Mount, at BCoyle11 for me, at SS Sports Talk for Sean. We've got a very exciting interview coming up next week that I'm sure you guys will be very hyped about. Let us know how we're doing. So, subscribe, review the podcast on iTunes, on TFM Live. Go to our YouTube page, The Full Mount MMA. Right into, you type that into the YouTube search bar, it'll come right up. watch our YouTube videos. If you're not able to check out the podcast in its full form, or you want snippets and cut up versions of the show, you can check it out there. Sean, am I missing anything?
No, I think you nailed everything.
So I want to thank Sean for joining me, and I want to thank you guys for listening. We'll be back same time next week here on sportsovertime.com and on thefullmountmma.com. So thank you guys for listening. We're out.
America, a shout out to the men in uniforms that protect and serve this country. From sea to shining sea, from one white boy to all nationalities. We got to stand together, people.
The TFM Live Podcast was brought to you by thefullmountmma.com. Check us out on Twitter @thefullmount.